is Joy News Prime.
Joy News Prime, a news bulletin, also available across Europe on ABN television based in London. Over the next 2 hours, we bring you business, sports, entertainment, and the biggest headlines as well as your social media comments. In the headlines, West Africa Gas Pipeline Company issues Friday deadline to stop supplying Ghana the gas used in generating electricity unless an outstanding debt for previous supplies are paid. Minority takes on government for allegedly going quiet on its failure to pay workers' SNIT contributions amounting to 914 million cedis as at December last year. Former President Rawlings endorses calls for a new voters register as pressure group Let My Vote Count Alliance takes its appeal to him. And the new court complex recently inaugurated in Accra by the president is a state-of-the-art edifice which has become quite an attraction. Except lawyers and their clients supposed to be using the building say navigating it is quite a complex exercise. They're yet to come to terms with it. We also have business, of course. Abigail Aduma Quinty will be joining me a lot later on. And all that and more coming up. Please stay tuned. Now, Ghana has until midnight on Friday to clear its gas bills to the government of Nigeria. Officials of the West African Gas Pipeline Company confirmed at a news conference in Accra that Ghana owes about $180 million in unpaid gas bills to its bigger neighbor. WAPCO is warning that if the debt is not cleared by midnight on Friday, gas supply to Ghana will be cut. And as we told you earlier this week, that could lead to a worsening of the energy crisis Ghana is currently grappling with. Walter Perez is Managing Director of WAPCO.
Since August 2014, VRA has received natural gas and pipeline-related transportation services totaling $231 million through the West African Gas Pipeline, otherwise known as the WAGP. As of today, VRA has paid only $50 million of this amount. Of the outstanding balance of $181 million, VRA owes $103 million to WAPCO, with the balance being owed to the other parties in the gas supply chain. Ladies and gentlemen, WAPCO has regularly engaged VRA, the Ghana Public Utilities and Regulatory Commission, the PERC, the relevant ministries, and even the highest levels of government to find a solution to the situation before it reached crisis level. Unfortunately, these efforts have not achieved the desired result. Just 1 month ago, WAPCO received a formal notification from VRA's gas shipper, NGAS, that deliveries to VRA should be curtailed effective 16th of October 2015. That's this Friday. In doing so, NGAS informed WAPCO of the intent of one of its major gas suppliers, Nigeria National Petroleum Company, NNPC, to curtail gas supply as a result of NGAS being in payment default due to the inability of VRA to settle its gas supply and transportation invoices. We are very certain those in positions of authority in Ghana are fully aware of this information, and we are hopeful they are taking appropriate actions to prevent curtailment. Otherwise, WAPCO is contractually obligated to curtail deliveries to VRA as of 0 hours on Friday, the 16th of October. WAPCO management is keenly aware and acutely sensitive to the effect that this directive from NGAS could have on power generation in Ghana. We find it unfortunate that the VRA debt situation has been allowed to deteriorate to the point where it now jeopardizes WAPCO's very existence as a company. And in doing so, it also jeopardizes the only viable option of providing sufficient on-time, off-take assurance for Ghana's TEN and Sankofa developments. I'd like to emphasize that we remain hopeful in spite of the current crisis, as we believe the WAGP remains critical energy infrastructure for Ghana. Further, we are firm in our belief that the WAGP is vital to the on-time and lowest cost delivery of Ghana's indigenous gas resources. To that end, WAPCO will continue to dialogue with the relevant authorities and trust that WAPCO, a company in which Ghana owns significant shares, will not be allowed to go under.
Right, obviously, cuts in supply of gas from Nigeria to Ghana is going to have implications for us. Now, we're looking at a situation where the energy crisis we're currently enduring is going to get worse. There's been some reprieve in the last few weeks, but we're going to lose that reprieve, or we're going to be going back to times when probably you were sleeping in a lot more darkness. There are suggestions that we may lose as much as 400 megawatts, and that's a lot of megawatts to lose if it so happens. And I'd just like us to quickly get onto our screen and get to see the implications of this situation. So Ghana, as you can see on the My Joy Online website, says that it's going to we're going to lose some 400 megawatts as a result of Nigeria deciding that they're going to cut gas to us. And the 400 megawatts they're talking about, it will be definitely because a lot of the gas we're getting from Nigeria goes through Tema, or goes to Tema, and Abuade, the two enclaves that would have our power generating plants. Now, the gas that comes in is used to generate electricity. But if it turns out that we're not getting that gas, then we're going to be in a fix. Now, even though we have some gas coming in from Ghana Gas, we don't have enough of it. And then again, Ghana Gas cannot pump its gas all the way to Tema. And now most of the plants in Tema use only gas. There are other plants that can use gas, light crude oil, or diesel. But the plant in Tema, especially Asogli, uses mainly gas. So if we're not getting that gas from Nigeria, then that's going to be the problem. But is there going to be a situation where we're not going to get the gas at all? Now, we're hoping that it doesn't come to that situation, because I've learned, and I've been speaking to people within the sector who are saying that the power minister, as well as the chief executive of the Water Authority, they're heading to Nigeria to try and resolve this thing before it gets to a situation where gas is completely, or gas supply from Nigeria is completely cut off. WAPCO would say they're completely helpless because it is NGAS, Nigeria Gas, that is supplying the gas. And if NGAS doesn't give them the gas to transport through the pipelines, then they can't bring that gas to us. So that's the situation we're faced with right now. We're hoping that the situation will be resolved by the Power Minister as quickly as possible. In other news, the Supreme Court has dismissed a suit challenging the legality of the ongoing constitutional review process. The suit was brought by US-based Ghanaian lawyer Professor Stephen Kweku Asare. Professor Ken Atefa is lawyer for the plaintiff.
Supreme Court of the Republic of Ghana gave its decision in a case brought by Professor Stephen Asare, a citizen of Ghana resident in the United States of America, praying the court for a number of important reliefs. The court, by a majority of 5-2, ruled that the application by Professor Stephen Asare, asking the court, in effect, to nullify the work of the Constitutional Review Commission and to stop the Constitutional Review Implementation Committee from continuing with its work, is without merit, and therefore the application is dismissed. We did not have the benefit of hearing the reasons that the Honorable Court, by a majority of 5-2, has for the decision that it has come to, but we do know that two justices of the court, the Honorable Justice Jones Doche and Honorable Justice Niyabua, dissented with from the majority position. The court also granted two of the reliefs, one fully and one partially. The one that the court granted fully was that the powers of Parliament to amend the Constitution is, the procedure for amending the Constitution is must be in accordance. The procedure must be in accordance with that stipulated in Chapter 25 of the Constitution, and the court fully agrees that that is technically, legally correct position of the law, and therefore it agrees. And also it agreed partially with the view that the amendment, Parliament's power to amend the Constitution cannot be delegated to any person or be usurped by Parliament. To that extent, the court, by 5-2 majority, agreed with the plaintiff. The court also adjourned the proceedings to the 29th of October 2015. That is when the court will give the reasons for the decision that it has reached today. It is on that occasion that we will know why it came to the decisions or the conclusions that it came to. And we hope we may also be obliged with the minority or dissenting opinion of the 2 justices of the court.
Now, 2 days after the official inauguration of Christ's newest edifice, the new court complex, lawyers and their clients are still having a tough time finding a way around. The new facility, officially opened by the president on Monday, has 43 courtrooms in a building that has more than 300 rooms. Identifying the courtroom one's case will be heard, both lawyers and clients say it's for the moment a rather complicated exercise with implications for how your case is decided.
How difficult or easy has it been for you navigating through?
I would say as a lawyer, it's not been a little bit easy because a lot of them has been redesignated and this is a new court. But so coming in here, unless you know the judge where your case was pending, then you'll be told the court that it has been redesignated to be. Fortunately, also on Monday, there was some orientation for the lawyers. So the lawyers at least know where some of the courts are and some of the judges sit. So at least when you ask some of the court staff, they are able to show you where the judge is sitting, where your case is pending.
Unlike the old court buildings scattered around the country, the new court complex has been designed to meet international standards. The complex, which has 43 courts in it, has scanners installed at the entrance to check and offset any criminal plots. Additionally, provisions are made for lawyers and their clients in a secure and segregated environment for counseling before and after hearing their cases. But the clients and their lawyers say they find it difficult navigating the facility.
The court staff, they are able to show you where the judge is sitting, where your case is pending. It is making it a little bit difficult because if you are supposed to be there on a particular time and you are not able to locate the court, you may only get to court when the case has been adjourned.
I came to a down floor. They directed me to where I'll get a general information. I went there. They were able to direct me to the registry. And when I got to the registry, they were able to direct me to the courts. And I got to the court. I was able to find my dockets. And then I think it's quite good. And the environment and everything is nice.
It has been extremely difficult, time-consuming. So, first of all, I think that they should publish it in the papers, linking the old course to the new course, so that it will be easier for people to gain access without coming here to be asking questions.
The edifice, which has become a tourist center for many, has since its inauguration seen people troop in just to have a feel of the environment. That, according to the supervising judge and the administrator of the complex, puts undue pressure on the facility and could limit its lifespan. The appeal court judge therefore made a passionate appeal to litigants to cut down on the number of people who follow them to the courthouse.
The problem is that we would have wished everybody would come to court to observe proceedings, but it is impossible looking at the seating capacity, the nature of the courtrooms, and the number of people the court could accommodate at any point in time. That is why we are pleading with them that at least each court will have not less than 10 cases a day. And if one person alone comes to court with 60 people, where do we sit the other litigants? So this one, it is a passionate appeal. We are appealing to them that they should bear with us. Not that we don't want them to come to court, but because of the sitting capacities of the courtroom.
Administrators of the new court complex are planning to issue identity cards to court correspondents who will be trained to give accurate reports on court proceedings.
Now, staying with the course, there was drama in a court in Wa after a man was convicted for theft. Now, why there will be drama after a man has been convicted? Rafiq Salam joins us on the line with more. Good evening to you, Rafiq. What happened after this man was convicted that caused all that drama?
The man was convicted for stealing cattle. The case was started from around August.
Did you say cattle or kettle?
I'm talking about cattle.
All right.
And then this was a case that has been running at the Ward District Magistrate Court. And so there's this man called Abu Bakr Sanko, who first stood as authority for him, and then he absconded and then reappeared. And so when the case was called, the judge convicted him 1 year in hard labor in default, pay a penalty of 250 penalty, and terms of monetary terms is about over 3,000 Ghana cedis. It was there that this man who was of Fulani extraction raised his hand, protested, and told the judge that he was wondering why the judge should give him that sentence, because he has allegedly paid for the judgment. And then when the judge inquired, he called one Abu Bakr as a man who took his 15,000 Ghana cedis, 1,500 Ghana cedis, to secure bail for him. And so the judge issued a bench warrant for the arrest of Tanko, and when he came, according to the police, he stated that at least he took the money, but he didn't give the money to the court or not the police.
No, why? If you say he took the money, why did he take the money? Is it a case of somebody taking money to want to bribe a judge or through a case?
In the case, according to Idris Buhari, who is a convict, he stated that he took the money in two installments. The first one was 500 Ghana cedis to give the police to secure bail for him, and the second one was for him to give it to the court officials to ensure that the bail is granted. And so the money, 1,500, was for him to be granted bail, but it turned out that the judge sentenced him to 1 year imprisonment.
What was the response of the court officials and spectators?
The judge asked all the court clerks at the court about what transpired, and they all denied taking money from the convict, and then also from Abu Bakr Tanku. And so when he was called, he came to the court and confessed that he actually took the money, but he didn't give the money to anybody. So they asked him where the money was. He said the money was in his pocket. So the judge asked that he should bring the money. So he put the money out as an exhibit or as an evidence for which will help in the investigation.
All right. Thank you very much, Rafiq Salam, reporting from WAM. So the story is that some guy goes to court and he's convicted for stealing cattle. Now, before he goes in, he says, well, I've paid for my judgment. I'm being made to pay again. And I actually gave some money. He says he actually gave some money to someone to secure his bail and potential release. And it turns out that the judge asked for whoever it was, they brought him in. The person indeed confessed that he took the money, and yet he didn't pass on the money. And so they're investigating the case. We're taking a break. We'll be back with more. Please don't go away. You're watching Joy News Prime. Now, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission has concluded negotiations with the various teacher unions on the outstanding arrears and expired conditions of service. The outcome of the talks was announced in Accra on Wednesday afternoon to cheers and smiles from all parties involved.
The teacher unions over the past weeks have been demanding payment of incremental arrears, transfer grants, transport and other outstanding arrears. Addressing the media briefly after a meeting on Wednesday, Chief Executive of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, George Smith Graham, said the Finance Ministry has released money into the GES account for onward payments.
We have realized that on the issue of the transfer grant and the vehicle maintenance allowance, money has already been released to the Ghana Education Service. The meeting has been briefed duly by the Ghana Education Service, and we've been informed about the releases that have been made to the districts for payment to teachers. And so we believe that these monies will be received by the teachers very soon. We also realize that the conditions of service, the documents that we requested for from the teacher unions have also been given to us. And so very soon, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission will put together a team made up of the management of Ghana Education Service, the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations, and will begin engaging the teacher unions on their conditions of service, especially now that the categories 2 and 3 allowances have been negotiated.
The teacher groups, who seemed satisfied with the outcome of negotiations, formally announced the withdrawal of their threats to go on strike.
NAGRAT believes that if all stakeholders adhere to the tenets of the agreement that we've reached, there will be no threats and the labor atmosphere will be congenial and peaceful. Having accepted the conditions that we've set for ourselves and the roadmap that we've agreed to work with, NAGRAT want to announce to the general public and its members that NAGRAT has decided to call off the intended industrial action today.
Based on the decisions we have taken, we as a union will not shield any teacher who will do something untoward to bring the name of the union and the teacher profession into muddy. And that, on that note, we would like to state that we have suspended the intended strike action and that we will continue to work with all the stakeholders.
Meanwhile, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is rolling out a new validation program for teachers across the country. Teachers have up until October 23 to submit their data to the Education Ministry or have their names deleted from the payroll system. Matilda Pomagan for Joy News, Accra.
Former President Jerry John Rawlings appears to have thrown his ample weight behind those campaigning for the compilation of a new voters register. In a rare display of support for what has effectively been an opposition campaign, the former president met on Wednesday with a pressure group leading demand for a new voters register. Mr. Rawlings told leaders of the Let My Vote Count Alliance at his residence in Accra that if a new voters register would contribute to credible and peaceful polls, then a new electoral roll must be compiled.
In order to minimize the stressfulness into 2016, like some of them are saying, like what we've read, everything possible must be done to ensure a very credible electoral process. If this means that we listen to what some of the elders are saying, I've always said that it's an unfortunate thing to abuse the sanctity of the right of choice. And the only way we can really contain and prevent, things from getting out of hand is to ensure that the electoral process and that register are as credible as possible. It's also important that we all speak to our supporters to exercise some patience as they send to hear what the Electoral Commissioner. I'm glad the President's statement has been repeated. They've also expressed the same concern. I hope what I'm saying will also be taken into account.
Well, it seems the Rawlings family is building a united front behind the campaign for a new voters register. After meeting with the patriarch of the family, leaders of the Let My Vote Count Alliance met with the matriarch, former First Lady Nana Konadu-Agyeman Rawlings. She insists the Electoral Commission has no choice but to compile a new electoral roll. Mrs. Rawlings, who is leader of the National Democratic Party, says there's evidence that the current register is not credible.
I am sad that this country is moving backwards again. Now, if we're going to be able to arrest this, then some of these very topical issues have to be, addressed. The issue of voters register vis-a-vis election and voting, stroke democracy, are all interrelated. We cannot say that we're going to have credible elections when it is clear that the electoral process is flawed. Once it has been discovered that some pictures were actually scanned and pushed into the register, it already flaws the register. Totally flawed. And once it is flawed, that alone, without talking about all the other issues, shows that something has to be done. It is not up to the Electoral Commissioner to decide that she will or she will not do what the people of Ghana want. She is there to do what the people of Ghana want, in consultation with the people that she's working with and the parties around, not in consultation with me, myself, and I. That's not it. So if pictures can be scanned and put onto the register, it already negates it. It's negated. So why don't you just have a new register that will be more credible, make everybody in Ghana happy? If all those recognized groups are saying the same thing, then we cannot all be wrong. We cannot all be wrong and one person is right. So it is important to revisit it.
Right, we're joined in the studio now by a convener of the Let My Vote Count Alliance, David Asante. You've been having some interesting meetings today. First, you had audience with the founder of the NDC, the governing NDC, and then you also spoke to the wife, who's with the National Democratic Party. What eventually came out of that meeting? Because I know the former president spoke before you went into the meeting. What came out thereafter?
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a privilege, I must say, to be granted audience by the former president, His Excellency J.J. Rawlings. He made us understand, as a statesman, he handed over Ghana in one piece to the successive presidents. And he believes if there is anything that we can do to contribute to the sustenance of the democratic environment that he handed over, nothing should stop us from doing so. And he insisted specifically, if the electoral register, as sensitive as it is, if changing it is what will sustain this democracy, the Electoral Commission should not hasten nor slow down the process. He must rather go on and change the register. He was very emphatic.
Right. Now, after he made those public remarks, you were into a meeting. You went into a meeting with him. What was the outcome of that meeting? I'm curious to know.
Principally, there is one thing that I personally picked from the meeting. His Excellency J.J. Rawlings was quick to add that he could smell an unstable atmosphere, political instability. And he foresaw the possibility of we going into election 2016 with so much tension. And he further on established the fact that if indeed this whole perceived tension and that which he feels and smells has a direct correlation with changing the electoral register to go into future 2016 in particular elections with a more credible base document, the EC should facilitate the process and change the base document.
Did he say that he was going to take it up further and probably speak to and try and win over his members of the National Democratic Congress to go along?
There is one exciting thing His Excellency former President J.J. Rawlings told the leadership of Let My Vote Count Alliance. We went there with Justice Ajakuma, the young man who lost his eye through the police brutality. And Papa J was, well, this is very unfortunate. This is uncalled for. I will do anything possible to support this young man to fly into South Africa to replace the eye with an artificial version. However, I am happy that you young men have not given up and are ready and willing to sustain the fight, the need to push through legitimately on the street, demonstrations, sustaining demonstrations. So he meant to establish that don't give up. still fight on. And I will support you in this legitimate process to make sure a new voters register is procured.
All right. How did you come by this meeting with former President Rawlings? Because clearly you align more with the New Patriotic Party. How were you able to pull this off?
Well, that rather demystifies the existing or seeming perception we are too inclined to the MPP.
How did you pull it off?
Well, we just appealed to him. Your Excellency, we would love you to grant us audience because we have Abu Ramadan PNC, we have PPP, Charles Owusu, we have NDP, Owusu Bempa. So really, we are not an MPP movement. We are a coalition of like-minded Ghanaians who believe we need a credible voters register to continue sustaining the democracy we enjoy. And don't forget, Papa J is a principal and a cardinal figure as far as the democracy we enjoy and its sustainability is concerned. He granted us audience. The wife, Her Excellency, Nana Kunedu did, and all of them, interestingly, are in full support for the new voters register.
All right, certainly must be a victory for you, so you're walking away happy with that. So there was David Asante is convener of the Late My Vote Count Alliance, and they managed to secure a meeting with former President Rawlings, and he has pledged some support for them. Still to come in the bulletin, police have paraded yet another batch of suspected criminals in Accra. There's the second such parade of suspects in as many weeks. Right after this, we bring you business news. Please stay tuned. Abigail Adumakwenchi is here with Business News. Good evening to you, Abigail.
Good evening, Israel.
All right, so what's coming up in business?
Well, quite a number of issues. Well, we have the World Bank talking about our debt levels again.
What exactly are they saying about it?
They are actually siding with the IMF that we are debt distressed. And
oh, so the IMF, the World Bank sides with the IMF against Mahama.
Exactly.
Against our president.
You. Right. All right, let's take it away. And the World Bank says it stands by the country's classification as high debt distress by the IMF. The response follows concerns by President John Mahama that Ghana can be seen as highly indebted because IMF added the debt of state-owned insurances, which should not be the case. But the country director of the World Bank, Harry Kerali, holds a different view.
We are always very frank and honest when we deal with the government. We do not necessarily go to the public, we do not necessarily go to the press with our conversations with the government, but I can assure you the World Bank is very open when it discusses with the government. We tend to keep things in private sometimes, but for sure we say what we feel needs to happen in our discussions with the government. The President is right. This is purely a technical measure. The current level of debt is about 67% of GDP. This is public debt, 67% of GDP. That is extremely high, and that is what the President means when he says that Ghana is in danger of being a highly distressed country. And hence the program to try and reduce that level of debt. 67 is high by any standards. If Ghana can bring that down below 50%, then you have much more room, you have much more headroom to be able to bring in investors, give confidence to the economy, and thereby improve the productivity of the country.
What do you make of this concern that the President is putting across, that revise your notes when it comes to classifying us as a high risk of debt distressed country, because you have added all the SOE's debts to government borrowing?
Well, but that is also, again, a statistical or technical matter. State-owned enterprises imply a contingent liability on the government. Any debt by an SOE means that eventually, if they default, it is the government that is going to have to pay. So it's a technical definition that really matters. In essence, what really needs to happen is for those SOEs to improve their own performance so that they're able to carry their debts without imposing a debt onto the government. And this is where the technicality lies. Who ultimately would foot the bill if those SOEs are not able to pay?
This is Joy News Prime. President Mahama was earlier today vetted by the National Executive Council of National Democratic Congress at the party headquarters. The president is vying to be the presidential candidate of the NDC. He has no challenger in the primary scheduled for the 7th of next month. And he has been giving the all clear to campaign for votes in the November 7 presidential and parliamentary elections. Joining us is Derek Ekosam, has been following the story and joins me in the studio. Good evening to you,
Good evening,
Derek. So what transpired at the NDC headquarters today?
Well, the president was in there for about 30 minutes and then he came back. He came out full of smiles to cheers from the supporters, and then he started waving.
That must have been one pretty short vetting.
Very short. Well, you know he's standing for the position unopposed. Nobody is contesting him, and so the others were asking why he actually had to be vetted, because he has no contender, but they said he had to undergo the constitutional demands.
So it's
of
a
the
formality,
party, sort of. So he's been cleared. We can hear the General Secretary speak about that.
In the case of the presidential elections, today we had the opportunity to also vet the sole candidate, President John Dramani Mahama, and he was found to be qualified to contest. So he is now free to engage in his campaigning, and at the end of the voting, he's expected to make more than 50% of the votes to qualify as the candidate. We also organized another meeting to develop guidelines for the exhibition of our voters register. And so we expect the exhibition to begin from 23rd of October to 30th October. So every registered member of the party is expected to go to back to the constituency and to check their names in the branch registers.
Right, so Eko, at this point, he's cleared to go unopposed. In an election, with really he's going alone, he's standing unopposed. Now, what happens in the unlikely event that he doesn't win the 50+1 vote?
Well, essentially, he needs at least 30,000 votes to be cleared, to be declared winner, and then to contest against Nana Akufo-Addo and the other party's presidential candidates.
Does it mean the 50+1 doesn't really, 50% plus 1 doesn't really become an issue?
You know, the NDC is looking at least 50,000 delegates voting. So if you divide it into two, that's about 25,000. But he needs at least, if he doesn't get that many votes, they'll have to reopen nominations for some other people to contest. That's whether or not to be allowed to contest. When that time is due, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Okay, but as it is, he's the only candidate going.
Well, if the chairs were anything to go by, it's very likely that he might win, maybe.
All right. Thank you very much, Jarek Ekosam. He's with Joy News. We're taking a break now. Right, Miss G is here with entertainment. Good evening to you, Miss G.
Good evening, Israel. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Very well, very well, I must say.
Okay.
I'm good. I have lots of gist for you today, you know.
Yep.
So
which is what I'm excited about.
Exactly.
All the gossip that you have to share.
So apparently on the 16th of October, that's on Friday, the World Bank is having the Poverty Eradication Day. It's an international day for poverty eradication, and Accra happens to be the host for the launch of the report.
Right.
And the
exciting thing,
exactly. And the exciting thing for us as entertainers is the fact that the theme song for these years was done by Miss V.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, she did the theme song.
That's good.
And so we caught up with her earlier in the day, and we find out, how did you get this deal? What's about this deal that we don't know?
Okay.
And what else have you done on this project? And she spoke to us.
Miss V.
So is it a campaign song, or is it a song you just did for your album, your upcoming album?
It's a campaign song. It's a song for
the World Bank, yes, about this campaign, about this project.
Were you contacted to do it, or you did it out of passion for what you are seeing here, poverty?
I was contacted by the World Bank to do it. Yes, seeing that I'm an African musician who takes a lot of time to do music about good causes like the Natural Girl song, helping empower girls and things like that. You know, it drew their attention to me, so yeah.
Now, worldwide, your song is going to be used.
Yes.
Yes. What does it mean for you?
It means a lot, and it's not just about me, it's the message in that song. It's really important. That message is heavy, and I mean in the song there's an Ewe line that says Mikatami Wadeka. It means we should all come together and work hard at ending poverty. It's not one man's job, it's not one person's work, it's everybody's work.
All right, so congratulations to Miss V for
Sure.
landing this one. And Kwame Jumo Ajimang is here with sports. Good evening to you, Kwame.
Good evening, Izzy.
All right, so the Black Stars drew with Canada.
Which you didn't watch.
Which I didn't watch. Did I lose something?
I'm not too sure you did. I mean, it was a friendly. The results don't really matter. I mean, it's about getting the opportunity to try
But how exciting
new
was the
players.
game, though?
Well, average if you ask me, because I mean, it gets to that point in time in a friendly game where it's substitution after substitution. It takes the tempo of the game away,
Yeah.
and at that point, it was more of one of those things where you'd want to take a cap and just relax and watch.
I'm sure the Canadians will be happy that they beat.
Well, I mean, for a team like Canada, getting the opportunity to play a team that has been at the
Ghana,
last 3 World Cups, as big as Ghana these days, I mean, for them it was huge, and getting something of us.
Because Atukwame Adazi, the producer, he's been in Canada and he knows.
He was making a lot of noise about the game.
He knows they don't play that much football, really.
Well, I mean, they play ice hockey, baseball, basketball, and stuff
All right,
like that.
he's carrying it on.
We stay with that friendly international involving Ghana and Canada. The game ending 1-0, and coach from Ghana had the opportunity to try a few new players who he had called up for the game, and he was impressed with the.
All right, so just before we go, I'm going to tell you that our website is not in any car. Our website is myjoyonline.com. You can go there and get to read a lot more of the stories that we have been talking about. But that's it for the bulletin. Quick round through our top stories. The West African Gas Pipeline Company has issued a Friday deadline to stop supplying Ghana the gas used in generating electricity unless an outstanding debt for previous supplies are paid. Now, my understanding is that the Prime Minister is going to Nigeria, and hopefully we should get a resolution to this problem tomorrow. Now, the minority is taking on government for allegedly going quiet on its failure to pay workers' SNP contributions amounting to 914 million cedis as of December last year. Former President Rawlings has endorsed calls for a new voters register as pressure group Let My Vote Count Alliance took its appeal to him. And the new court complex recently inaugurated in Accra by the president is a state-of-the-art edifice which has become quite an attraction, except lawyers and their clients supposed to be using the building say navigating it is quite a complex exercise they're yet to come to terms with. So for more news, go to myjoyonline.com. My name is Israelite. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good evening.
This is Joy News Prime.